Hey, welcome to Top Shelf Tech. I'm Ryan Joe, and this is Jeremy Nees, and today we've got Brendan and Pete from Aider.AI. Welcome, guys.
How you doing?
Hey guys, thank you.
Cool. So, tell me a bit about yourselves. What do you do at Aider.AI?
So Aider is a digital assistant for small businesses. We kind of looked at what was going on in the AI world and looked at how many big tech companies were building AI for consumers, and you can get Alexa and Google Assistant and lots of cool tech there. And then enterprises had a lot of it as well, big budgets and tech teams to build stuff out, but small business land wasn't getting much loving around an AI space. So we spotted that opportunity and decided to try and build a digital assistant to help small businesses become more successful. And so we started building that in 2018 and kind of rolled the product into the market last year in 2019.
So is this a sort of hot area now where you're finding others springing up and going, look, AI has been kind of seen as a very expensive top end of town thing, and others are going, well, actually, we can make this accessible to all sorts of businesses?
Yeah, the concept was, as Brendan said, was we saw that small businesses were the foundation of any economy, and we wanted to give them an edge to be successful. We also thought this, with the way technology has advanced and is still advancing, this is an opportunity for us to sort of democratise AI, to give them at a very, very low investment the opportunity to utilise this technology. As far as it being a large opportunity, well, it's probably yet to play out for us, Jeremy. But it's fair to say that we see an awful lot of people not playing in this space. How's that? And so, therefore, as far as we're concerned, that the opportunity has come back to the fact that these small businesses are so important. We sort of feel like there is a vast opportunity if we can deliver it the right way, at the right price, in the right format that they can utilise.
So what's the response from your customers been like? Just looking at the company, a lot of the stuff you're doing, these businesses don't have any alternatives. Like it must be amazing for them.
Yeah, it is something new, and I think that's part of the, whether you call it first mover advantage or first mover disadvantage, it depends which way you look at it. Customers have never seen anything like it, so it does require a little bit of, hey, look, you can do this, and normally there's some surprise, and then they have a play, and it's really useful and nice and easy to use. So, but it's that first moment of they didn't know it existed. Exhibiting the pain points, they're really, really busy, wearing multiple hats, a lot of data sets to try and make a sense of what's going on in my business, who owes me money, how much money do I owe, who's working tomorrow, what's my top selling product, all those things you have to think about as a small business. Suddenly that's available through a digital assistant. They don't know the digital assistant's there, but they've got all the pain points. So it's just trying to join those dots.
Yeah, they don't go to bed on Saturday night, think, God, I wish I had a digital assistant. But they do go to bed on Saturday night, think, wish I had more cash.
Yeah.
Or wish I could sell more.
Yeah.
Or wish I could find the right person who makes the greatest coffee, whatever it might be. And so absolutely, as Brendan said, it's all partly about sort of educating them about the opportunity that exists within the data that they use in their business already.
Yes.
So making this real for us, are there some brands that you can tell us that you're in, and we're talking about data in a small business. You don't normally think about businesses as sort of being small businesses as being data rich. What kind of data sources and customers are you working with?
So we've launched a product with some initial integrations around specifically focused on the retail and hospitality verticals in New Zealand and Australia, just to get the product going.
Yep.
And so those businesses use point of sale applications like Vend or Counter or Square or Shopify. They'll have rostering applications like Deputy. They'll have payroll like Xero Payroll or iPayroll. They'll have Google Analytics. They'll have social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Gotcha.
And then they'll have accounting applications like Xero or like QuickBooks. And so those are the integrations that we've done. And those are the businesses that we're working with now about putting that data together and making it make sense to a small business. You're right. They don't think about data. They think about, I've just got to run this business, but I've got to make decisions all day, and I don't know how to get the right information at the right time in an easy format to make those decisions. And so, Aider's there to help solve the friction from those multiple data sets, those multiple apps that those small businesses use, make it easily accessible to get that information by asking questions and getting an answer. But then what we also do, which is different, is that we run algorithms over the different data sets and look for anomalies or patterns and then proactively tell the customer something by a push notification on their mobile phone. So, hey, did you know this has happened? Your top selling products just changed, or Brendan keeps turning up late for work on Thursdays, or whatever it is that's causing an issue in the business.
Makes it sound heaps easier when you're not talking about data. You're saying, hey, you've got Xero, you've got Deputy, then we'll just plug into these things plus your social and you're away. That's quite accessible, really.
Yeah, the concept of a one-stop shop was really, a lot of people thought, oh my God, everything in one place, that's great. They're more and more, obviously, as you can appreciate, more and more people using these apps in the cloud, etc. There are a whole lot of businesses which still aren't.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of applications which still really have legacy data that we actually can't connect to, right? So back ends that we can't tie into. But people are more and more used to seeing the information coming out now. They're getting used to that, which is great. But there's still, one of our premises we always said about these small businesses, as Brendan said, they wear a lot of hats, but they don't know what they don't know. So it's a concept we're trying to help them sort of uncover. Look, you may see a dashboard of saying, okay, your cash is this, or your sales are this, or whatever it might be.
Yep.
But it doesn't tell you anything about what to do, and that's what we think that has been missing before, and that's what we're trying to bring in. The whole concept of, okay, this is your data. This is what we see from your data. This is what you could be doing better or worse, possibly, based on what we see. And that's where, and Brendan will talk to some of the smarts coming around Aider.
You mentioned a little bit at the start that AI has been pretty popular in a really heavily consumer space, but I don't think people probably don't consider that to be AI, right? Alexa and Google Assistant and such. And you talked about it in enterprise. Is AI as a concept quite daunting for some small businesses?
Yeah, it is. Well, I think it's more of, I'm not sure it's daunting, it's more of a mystery, and no one really knows. There's a lot of hype, and there's a lot of what is actually AI. The word is everywhere. So I think a few years ago people were worried about it, and now it's almost just too much. So no one really knows, as in small business land, not many small businesses know what to do with AI. Like, they don't have technical teams to try and build things. They don't know how to take advantage of it. I think what they'll start to see is that some of the other apps that they use in their businesses, like Shopify or others, are introducing bots and things like that. And that's probably the small businesses' experience of that is in their personal life and in interact faces, some of which are genuine AI, but some of which are not. They're just scripted bots. Yeah.
So if I'm a small business, I've signed up to Aider and I'm looking to get data in and out and get all these recommendations. You mentioned push notifications to your phone. What do you guys see as the end game for this? Is this, is it I have a dashboard and it tells me things? Do I talk to this? What's the kind of over the horizon that you guys are looking at?
I mean, out there's a whole bunch of them, but one I love to think about is always that, Aider tells me about something. Tells me something's about to happen. Tells me something that could happen if certain other things happen. Like projections, etc. So it's all right. For example, you think about cash. I mean, one of the concepts we've seen, one of the problems we've seen with small businesses is this whole concept of unpredictability of cash flow. And we know that the number of small businesses go out of business because of not having enough cash, right? So imagine that sort of you have. We use this concept of the digital rock star employee. Right?
Yep.
That's Aider, and Aider sort of wakes you up and says, Hey, Jeremy, do you realise that if you continue to sell this at that price, you're going to be out of business in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months' time, whatever it might be, or you need more of this or less of that or whatever. this is happening soon, this is going to impact you this way, you might want to prepare better for it by doing this. So this whole concept of someone is there to help you, to advise you, alongside all those other people, all those other businesses, etc., who should be advising you.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely spot on, is this rock star employee, as Pete said, but that's proactive. That's always sitting there trying to work out what's going on in the business. Yes, you can ask them any questions and they'll know what's going on and they'll answer you. But they'll also proactively tell you things. Hey, look, this is starting to happen. Watch out for this, do that. And then thirdly is to take actions and do things. So you can say, hey, Aider, please do this, approve payroll, or make
so
that
actually
payment and
action
start
things.
to
It's
take
not just-
actions.
oh,
yeah.
Cool.
So for us, there's from the technical integration, there's a two-way data flow back into those other apps or other services where we can actually start to execute actions. But that's where we're going. What we're describing is where we're going, and it's early stage for us. We're learning lots and dealing with the pains of a AI startup, and that means there's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of training the AI to get it right. So you kind of got to get it wrong before you can get it right. So there's a lot of doing that work.
Yeah, and a lot of, I think, as Brendan mentioned earlier, was a lot of educating people that this is available to them with everything they currently have, on their desktop, on their laptop, on their phone now.
And what is it? Like, we talk about AI, and there's a lot of things that are marketed as AI and actual AI. Can you give me like a 30-second download on how you'd explain AI to a layman?
Well, I mean, AI is really using computers or software to imitate human cognitive behaviors. And so you're spot on, there's so much smoke and mirrors out there, which is why most people don't really understand what that is. And lots of scripted responses kind of things, and not true AI, just conversational interface with some scripted responses. There are different kinds, machine learning, where computers are trying to teach each other what to do and look for patterns to predict outcomes. There's natural language processing, which is a lot of what we do and where we've started. We also do machine learning as well, which are around the numbers and the predictive stuff. But the natural language processing or natural language understanding is another discipline within the AI umbrella, if you want to call it that. And that's a lot about what Aider is doing. So we've had to build and train our own natural language understanding platform to understand small business language. And that's one of the things that we think is really important, is that we understand how small businesses speak, their vocabulary when you run a retail store or a hospitality store, the pain points that you have. You use a slightly different language. What are my takings today? What is my revenue today? Who's working tomorrow? How many shifts are open? If you run a legal firm, you probably ask different questions. How many open cases have I got? And things like that. So we've had to train Aider to understand the vocabulary of our customers. And we'll keep doing that as we move beyond the target verticals and expand.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like AI is, I'm not say simplistic level, but the initial level around robotic process automation, where you've got chatbots and things that are doing things for the human, if you like, maybe replacing monotonous automation processes or whatever it might be. But effectively, we like to say, definition goes without intelligence. The whole concept that Brendan was talking about, involving natural language, machine learning, natural language generation, things like that. You bring this level of intelligence to it, which just changes this thing, to moves it towards what they call intelligent process automation. The whole concept that machine starts to know what to do with the data, as opposed and learns all the time based on with direction from the humans, right? So it's not out there doing it by itself, right? The best decision is always made by the best AI and the best person, right? So that's one of the things I like to explain to people. So it's out there learning under guidance from what they do with the product, what they do with the data, and what we see they're doing with it as well.
Yeah.
It's quite a good point, right? A lot of people are concerned about AI and, runs off and does this and does that. Ethics, there's the privacy elements of it. Do you come up against that? And if so, how do you address that?
I mean, we occasionally hear about people concerned about it going off and doing things on its own. I mean, that's not very common. That's general AI, where it's training itself to make its own decisions and overcome problems that has never been trained to solve before. That's quite a that's a very broad and big AI category on its own, and that's not what we're doing.
And
not
too
many
much
people are
sci-fi
doing
in that? Is that
lots of sci-fi in that. So there's so many stories about bots that have taught each other different languages.
Having conversations, talking to each other.
Yeah,
I didn't know you ordered that, guys.
and that stuff, it's great because it's awesome for headlines, but it doesn't help us in any way. So kind of like we keep having to explain those things to people. It's not
Who ordered the Ferrari, honey?
Yeah,
it's interesting you say that because when you talk about it making errors and going off and doing stuff, you talk about human error as well and people doing that kind of thing. But I think when you think it's AI going off and doing something, it's much more scary than somebody.
You can't charge it for fraud, can you?
But it's interesting, I mean, I think any business like ours that involves, in fact, any technology business, and particularly AI, I mean, this whole company, you want to be what's the word? You do not want to be creepy, right? You've got to be as transparent as possible without opening the kimono up completely, because obviously there's intellectual property involved, things like that. But people do want to know what you're doing with it. Yeah. And you want to be able to explain to them in layman's terms, what is it we're doing with your data to give you that? And then see, we're not applying our magic from our machine, etc. But we're not literally screwing with your data. It is secure with us.
Yeah, customers get the choice to connect the data and to disconnect the data, and we protect that. And it's the customer's always in control, and that's really important. And I think another point that Pete raised also is that because of our early stage and because of the humans involved, we're still training Aider manually to do that. But we've also built into the product the capability for customers to help out. So if Aider answers properly, it gives you some useful information, you can vote up, and we know the system knows we got it right. If you vote down on the answer, it pops up at our end and says, hey, you got this thing wrong, and the customer can tell us why, and we can look at it and improve it and train it so that next time we get it right. So it's getting smarter every day because customers are helping us by feeding back into the product.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we realised right at the start is that we don't get many chances. Even though the product is not expensive, because of all the things we talked about with respect to the mysteriousness around AI and the education required, we don't get many chances with these small business customers because they have got an awful lot of time doing a lot of other things, right? And so, absolutely back to Brendan's point, it's a real good one. We can't keep coming back, sorry, I don't understand you, sorry, I don't understand, I don't get that, or give them the wrong answer. It's about trust. They've got to trust that we're treating their data appropriately. They've got to trust that we are doing the right thing. We've got to trust that we'll come back to them with the answer in time. It's all about expectation, usual sort of stuff, Jeremy, around customer satisfaction, etc., right? Customer experience and engagement. You've got to make sure that you're doing what you say you will, right? And in a timely manner.
Can you share a story of a customer, potentially name, if you can name any, and where they've come back to you and sort of they've had that good experience and you've gone, oh wow, that was really cool. We did this and they found out this thing and that was a win for everyone.
One of my favourite ones happened halfway through last year, I think it was. There's a customer in the South Island that got one of our did you knows. So our algorithm picked up something and pinged them and said, hey, did you know your top selling product, which was avocado smash thing, has just dropped off the cliff. And instead, your top selling product now has become eggs and bacon on toast. And they were like, what's that? And they looked at it, and actually what it coincided with was the change of season, and all the cruise ships had stopped coming into town, and all the avocados and smashed avos were the tourists.
The millennials.
Oh, wow. And the millennials. And they'd stopped, and the builders were coming back in, and they were just going, eggs and bacon, please. And they just realized, actually, that's the moment. It's just switched. And they went and put a little billboard out the front and said, hey, free coffee with your eggs and bacon, and the sales took off. And
really? Wow.
Little things like that, we don't get to see it until they've told us that story. But that's, those kind of things are great.
It's quite interesting. It's quite a small thing, and if you think about it, that it's a seasonal change or something like that. But to your point around the impact on the business, if you can, fill your cafe in the morning versus having it half fill for a business like that, which can be quite hand to mouth.
Absolutely,
it's pretty massive.
There's little things we've seen as well around managing people, which is obviously a huge cost for all our small businesses. And you've got a situation where one person was constantly checking in 15 minutes late. Now, if you don't need that person for 15 minutes, that's great. You save, 1/4 of the hourly rate. That sort of stuff's really important, right? That in itself pays for Aider in the month.
Wow.
Most
yeah,
likely,
okay.
right?
So it's quite
Most
small.
likely, right?
Yep, yep.
And so the issue we thought, we flagged this to someone and said, I actually need to have a word with that person. It wasn't about trying to crack the compliance whip or anything like that. It was just basically saying, hey, you realise that maybe you could manage your people a bit more effectively.
Yeah. If you want to start at 9:30, not at 9, fill your boots,
Absolutely.
and that actually helps us out as well. So
Yeah, we're not losing anything by it,
yeah,
possibly, right?
That's cool.
So it's those little things where they are so caught up in everything else that maybe they don't spot it.
I really hope you never get that, Jeremy.
My people just mostly don't turn up, Ryan.
But it's interesting also, customer expectations of, because it's software, it has to be right. You know, and this is something, a challenge that we have. So if someone asks Aider, imagine this happening, you sit down an employee in your business, you go, right, here we go. What's my top selling product? Boom. What's my revenue so far? Who owes me money? How many overdue invoices have I got? Who's working next Tuesday? What was the top salesperson last Thursday? And what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? And if you had an employee that could answer all of those questions in real time, most people can't. Not immediately in real time. They'll take a list and go away and come and work it out and come back and give you the answers to all those things. But because it's software, the expectation is that you get it 100% right. And so if you get a 90% right, we're still doing a much better job than the human equivalent would. But the expectation is 90%, it's okay. So it's an interesting dynamic to build a software company around artificial intelligence and around natural language processing and being able to hit a certain barrier that becomes acceptable for customers. So.
Yeah, the first thing every new customer does is they'll say, okay, what's my bank balance in Xero, for example? And Aider will tell them this, and they'll log into Xero. That's right. Okay, great.
You passed the test.
You passed that first.
It wasn't a rounding error.
Yeah.
I mean, Brendan talked about something. We've got this concept around where we take the product. There's a whole bunch of things we talk about. We haven't talked about voice yet, but one of the things, this concept, like wake up in the morning and say, hey, Aider, give me my morning playlist. Your sales yesterday were X. The weather today is going to be shit. Brendan's not turning up for work today. You might want to get someone to replace him, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You've got this much money in the bank. GSC's due in 2 days' time, whatever it might be. But you get a concept whereby you've got someone constantly remind you of things so you don't have to worry about it.
Cool. Well, we've probably asked you a whole lot of really average questions, and look, appreciate you guys taking the time. Is there any really intelligent questions we should have asked you, and anything you think? I don't know, around Aider, around AI for small businesses, that's insightful.
You mentioned something about speech as well. I don't know whether you want to go into
voice
that.
tech. Yeah, look, I think we've designed Aider to be that rock star employee, but we also want to be wherever the customer is. And not so much in New Zealand and Australia yet, but certainly in North America, voice as a user interface is just booming. And so everybody's got Alexa or Google Assistant or Android Auto in their car, or all of those interfaces.
In your car on the way to work.
Yeah. And that experience that Pete's just described is what we want to get to. And Aider's designed to do that from the outset. So we've got integrations to Alexa and Google Assistant. So if you have those, you can say, hey Google, open Aider, tell me what's my top selling product, and give me my end of day report or whatever it is that you've set up in Aider, and you can have that interaction completely by voice. So it's not just an in-app experience, it's a voice experience, therefore kind of again removing that friction and making it accessible even when you're driving safely, 2 hands on the wheel, asking questions, wherever you
when you talk about that digital rockstar, digital advisor, that's kind of quite nice at the start of the end of the day when you maybe just have the radio on or something to just go, give me a download. I don't need to think too much. Somebody's going to give me input, and I can just sit there and go, oh yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but it leads into something else which we're working on as well, is the concept of, we talked before about small businesses and sort of who they trust, and they know what they know within their business. They don't know about some things. We've learnt that they probably have developed a greater trust for, if they're a cafe owner, say, for the cafe next door to them, as opposed to possibly some of those who should be advising them.
Yep.
Accountants, those with vested interests, like banks and stuff like that, for example, right? Now, that is just the way things have gone. You have got a lot of businesses who are very good at advising small businesses. You've got a lot of businesses who are very good at completing compliance, right? Tax and whatever it might be. What we've just working on as well, which I think is worthwhile noting, is actually the concept of helping them help small businesses as well with Aider.
Oh, yep.
So it's a concept of saying, look, not only is there this conversational AI digital assistant you can use to access, understand more about your data, et cetera, but your advisor, your accountant, your bank, for example, anybody else who's intrinsically involved or interested in your success can also be involved and use that same technology and helping you. It's all concept of actually understanding what's actually on your mind, what problems you're facing, and bringing new things to the table, right?
Yeah, so the user, the customer can invite their accountant in and collaborate over the same information, so that gives the accountants, allow them to move into that advisory space by actually looking at the leading indicators of that business for the first time, not necessarily just the financials, because by the time it's hit the financials, it's too late. It's happened already.
And then they don't need to be an expert in Vend or whatever it is, or the
Correct.
Systems around staffing, and that they can get the outputs that are relevant to their context. I'm here to provide financial advice. I get all this stuff that we previously
Exactly.
I may have just looked at the bank balance at the end of the month or cool.
So we're kind of working on that, calling it the advisory intelligence platform.
Nice.
And it's back to the same principle that Pete spoke about, is the best way to help solve problems is AI and humans working together.
And probably reducing some of that skepticism that they approach it with, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And training the AI as well. These accountants can get in and make it smarter.
Yeah.
And not all of them.
Not all of them.
I mean, I'm going to be very polite, and say that a lot of them really get it. A lot of them don't get it, not quite as well, as quickly, right? So that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any closing remarks on what you'd kind of like to say to businesses who are considering Aider.AI but aren't so sure about it?
Well, just sign up and give it a
just
crack.
do it.
Just do it. It's a free trial, and it's only $9.99 after that, and it's really, really early stage for us. So bear that in mind. Sign up, have a go, try it. Some things will work and some things will break, and that's okay. If it breaks, vote down, tell us why, and we'll improve it.
Not many people probably thought you'd get AI for $9.99. Hey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Look, I mean, if you're I would say right off the top, if you're a Xero customer, a lot of Xero customers are listening to this, no matter what your industry, you'll be surprised how much benefit you get from it. So give it a crack. As Brendan said, it's a free trial for 30 days, and it's 2 cups of coffee a month.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot to invest in. If you're in retail, hospitality, e-commerce, you get a little bit more benefit out of it, because there are other applications that are tied, we're integrated with, or that we can which data we can use to actually be smarter for you, as it were.
Cool. Sounds amazing. Sounds too good to be true.
Well, it is. It's not too good to be true, but it's just too good.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks for joining us today, guys, and thanks for watching Top Shelf Tech. We'll see you next week.
Thank you very
Cheers,
much.
thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys. That's good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Nice.
that was awesome. That was good.
It's just really
That was
nice. It's really good getting